You ever look back at a stretch of dirt road and wonder how the world decided that you, out of all people, were going to be the one standing knee-deep in trouble you never asked for? Yeah, that's me. Every time I glance down the lane leading to my father's old ranch and remember exactly how this mess started. I mean, all I ever wanted was a quiet life, the same one my dad had, just me, the hills and a patch of land that fought back if you didn't show it respect. I inherited 750 acres of honest, sunburnt Texas earth mesquite trees, creeks, and cattle trails, older than half the houses in Brewster County. Land that remembers every boot print, every summer thunderstorm, and every hard lesson carved into it by stubborn men. That land was mine, and I took care of it the way you take care of a scar that's become part of you, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of pride, mostly out of love. The roads through my place weren't the kind you'd find on Google Maps. Just old farm trails my dad used for hay bales and cattle feed wheel ruts running straight as truth down to Copperbend Lake. For years it was just me and the wildlife and the rare fishermen who bothered to ask nice. Then 2 years back, the future arrived in the form of a housing development, swallowing up pasture with concrete driveways and manicured lawns, like someone was trying to domesticate the wild out of Texas, one street sign at a time. They named it Oak Ridge Meadow, which always sounded more like a subdivision in a cereal commercial than a real place. And naturally, they installed a homeowners association because nothing says community spirit like forcing folks to coordinate porch flags and mailbox heights. At first, I figured live and let live. I wasn't thrilled, but you can't stand in front of progress forever. Problem was, folks from Oak Ridge started using my dirt road as their shortcut to the lake, which would have been fine if they'd treated it with the kind of respect it deserved. But it didn't take long before I was seeing tire tracks that didn't match any ranch rig, empty coffee cups, candy wrappers, even a stray flip-flop. I let it slide. Kids will be kids, right? Even when I caught a pack of teenagers launching fireworks off the bluff, I just sent them home with a warning and chalked it up to suburbia colliding with the country. But then the letter came written in that sweet, slimy legalese that makes your eye twitch, just reading it. Dear Mr. Browning, we would like to discuss a partnership regarding access to Copperbend Lake via the existing trail on your property, which was their polite way of saying, give us your land, or we'll stop pretending to be nice about it. I didn't bother with pen and paper. I called them up and said, listen, as long as y'all act right, I'll look the other way. But you start treating this road like it's yours, I'll shut it down. That was the first time I spoke to Karen. Albright didn't know her name, then just recognized the brittle cheer in her voice, like someone smiling through gritted teeth. She thanked me with the fakest kindness I've ever heard and hung up. I knew it wasn't over. Summer brought heat, dry winds, and every kind of trouble you can imagine. ATVs ripping up my pasture in the middle of the night, fences knocked flat, beer cans and glass scattered in the brush. Even a gutted jackrabbit strung up like some twisted joke. I'd had enough. I hired a couple local boys, rebuilt the fence, tall and tough cedar posts and steel mesh, strung up bold red signs. Private property, no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted. I installed gates with coded locks and hid trail cameras in bird boxes, figuring if they wanted a fight, I'd give them one they couldn't win by sneaking around. 3 days after the new fence went up, I get a text from Dan Mallister, my neighbor, the only man in 20 miles who could weld a gate hinge quiet as a whisper. Your new gate's toast. Someone took a saw to it. Thought he was joking. Dan doesn't joke. I drove down and there it was, my new gate chewed through and tossed in the ditch cedar posts, sliced clean like somebody brought the Home Depot tool aisle to a rodeo. That was no wire cutter job. This was chainsaw work done with purpose. Pulled up the trail cam footage and there she was, Karen Albright herself, middle of the afternoon, standing in front of my gate with a chainsaw like she's auditioning for some low-budget horror flick. 2 men behind her, HOA vests, gloves, smug as cats. She looked dead into the camera and said, Let this be a lesson. No one cuts off the community, no one not without consequences. Then she yanked that cord and set to work smiling like it was all a joke. That wasn't vandalism, that was a message. I wasn't about to let it stand. That same day, I marched into the sheriff's office and handed Deputy Morales a flash drive. You're going to want to see this. Within an hour, we'd filed felony charges, vandalism, trespassing, conspiracy. I wasn't playing anymore. I locked down every road on my land, steel gates chains, new signs, aerial drone photos for proof. By the next morning, every shortcut to the lake was closed for good. And I sent the HOA a cease and desist. Any previous permission was gone, period. Let them scream. And boy did they when the joggers and paddleboarders found their shortcuts, padlocked traffic backed up all the way to the state road. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting, hopped on Facebook, and accused me of geographic terrorism. Said I was holding the whole community hostage. You'd think I'd built a moat filled with alligators, not just closed a couple roads that were mine in the first place. She said, we cannot let one bitter man dictate the accessibility of our shared natural resources. Lady, it's not shared. It's not communal. It's my land bought, paid for, and cared for by my family for generations. You don't get to swing a chainsaw at my fence and then play the victim. Karen didn't slow down. She filed a complaint with the county zoning board, said I was blocking historic access paths to recreational water resources. She printed out maps with red dotted lines showing my cattle trails like they were state park walkways. Claimed implied public easement because they'd been using it for a couple years, like 2 years of jogging and paddleboarding, somehow trumped 30 years of deed and tax records. The board clerk just raised an eyebrow, said it's her again, and filed it with the same energy you use for junk mail. I didn't wait for the county to come to their senses. I called up Ted Newman, my attorney ranch law legend and the kind of guy who orders brisket with his deposition. Gave him the video, the whole story. Next day, we filed a civil suit for $135,000 damages, trespass, reckless endangerment. Turns out my ranch hand Mason had been near that gate when Karen fired up her saw. Only reason he wasn't hurt was because he'd stopped for a smoke break. Served the lawsuit to Karen in person. She smiled and said, "This is a misunderstanding. I'm sure he'll come around. Lady, I'm coming for you with everything I've got." Once the suit hit, things got wild. Karen dropped the Neighborhood Mom Act and went scorched earth. She told the HOA I was weaponizing the legal system. Someone leaked a recording of her speech, said I was hoarding nature, claimed it was a moral imperative to free the land. Meanwhile, Ted and I stacked evidence, chat logs, photos, every scrap of proof. Found a post from Karen 2 days before the chainsaw incident. He's left us no choice. If he won't listen, we make a path. One reply. Chainsaw. That was all Ted needed. Added punitive damages to the claim. At the first court hearing, Karen showed up in a cream blazer, her lawyer looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Judge Linwood, ex-Army, all business. Ted laid out the facts, video chat logs, everything. Karen got up and delivered a speech about being a mother, a leader, a defender of harmony, somehow turning a property dispute into a crusade. Judge cut her off. This is not a moral tribunal, it's a court of law. Sit down or be held in contempt. You could feel the air go out of the room. Then came the twist I never saw coming. Mason called me, said to check the gate cameras. Caught Karen's husband and teenage son spray painting HOA. Says no gates on my new fence. Sent the video to Ted, he sent it to the sheriff, and suddenly we weren't just talking civil court now, there were criminal charges too. The DA opened a juvenile case, and Karen's whole family got slapped with a no-contact order. And just when I thought it couldn't get any more surreal, a reporter called Karen had started an online petition trying to get the state to declare my lake a community resource zone. She posted doctored photos, whipped up a storm. Online strangers called me greedy, cruel, even sent me cartoons of myself as a troll guarding a bridge. I almost had to admire the effort, but Ted just told me they scream louder when they know they're losing. Main trial day courtroom packed, everyone watching. Ted walked the judge through everything, then played the video, Karen the chainsaw, the HOA posse, the whole performance. People in the audience murmured, the chat logs, drone photos, everything laid bare. Karen's lawyer tried to spin it as a protest. Judge Linwood just frowned. Symbolic protest, not with power tools and criminal mischief. Karen insisted on speaking, delivered another speech about community oppression. Judge cut her off with, "This isn't a town hall. Sit down." You could feel it, she was done. The verdict, Judge Linwood read his decision like he was laying down stone. Karen found fully liable, ordered to pay $97,000 in damages, plus legal costs, plus emotional distress. The court referred the family for criminal prosecution and issued a no-contact order. As a kicker, the judge ruled every trail and road on my land was closed, no public right-of-way, no more arguing implied easement. That was the end of it. Karen got booted from the HOA board. Their apology letter showed up in my mailbox, hollow words, but at least they offered to pay some of my legal fees. Ted sent back a polite no thanks. Karen got probation and community service. Her husband took a plea. Her son apologized in juvenile court. Afterward, a few neighbors came by with pies, eggs, even an apology or two. Didn't know she was that much, one said. Dan called her more CIA than PTA. Me, I repainted the fence, upgraded my cameras, and kept mostly to myself. But one day I saw some Oak Ridge folks walking around the edge of my property to reach the lake the long way. Sun hats, water bottles, taking the legal route. That sight, better than any check. I put up a new sign, custom steel and oak. No entry. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Yes, even if you bring a chainsaw. Folks slowed down to read it. Some laughed. One took a selfie. Maybe it ended up in another HOA group thread. Don't be like Karen. Thing is, it was never about revenge. It was about respect. All I ever wanted was for people to understand what's mine is mine, and that's enough. Now, for the first time in a long time, it feels like they finally do. So, what do you think? Was I wrong for fighting back, or was I just protecting what my family worked for? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had to stand your ground against a neighbor or an HOA or anybody who thought the rules didn't apply to them. And hey, if you believe in property rights or you've got a wild story of your own, I want to hear it. Because out here, sometimes standing up for yourself means standing alone, and that's a story a lot of folks understand better than they'll ever admit.